So, hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Cozy Corner. My voice has gone kind of weird this day. I don't know, I've been having a weird day today. But so if I sound a bit quiet, it's because of that. But today's episode is going to be something that, it's a bit close to my heart. Okay, that sounds cringy. His too. But yeah, it's just an episode that I've always wanted to record, and I am very grateful that I found somebody who can relate to this. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I think you should do it, honestly.
No, I think you should go.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
My name's Mubarak. I am a computer science student. Even though I'm not that great, I used to study it. Yes, and that's about it. If you want to know anything else, my Instagram is...
We're gonna leave your Instagram in the description box anyway, so don't worry about that. So the way me and Mubarak met was through a team project, right? Yeah, it was like a team project, second year team project, and he was in my team, and it has always been good vibes. You have always been like just that brother who I could just go up to and just like talk about anything. But yeah, always that positive person in the team.
Even though she doesn't remember most of our conversations.
That's because I have bad memory.
I remember everything.
He somehow remembers every little thing. But anyways, today's topic is gonna be loneliness, which is, I feel like it's something that a lot of people go through anyways, especially in university. Actually, not even university, it could be primary school, secondary. I call it high school, but so yeah, I feel like everyone just goes through it. And me and Mubarak today are just gonna share our experiences, really, like with loneliness, how we tackled it, how we sort of came out of it, and yeah, take it away, Mubarak. Share your experiences with us.
Awesome. I've been thinking about the topic. First of all, I must say, when I asked Sana about the topic, what topic I should choose, I did air her for like 12 hours because I wanted to make sure that it was something that I could relate to, and I could, I was comfortable talking about. And I came up with the topic of loneliness because it's something, now that I am mature enough at university, I've realized that, okay, this has been a big part of my life, and I'm at the point that I can share it with whoever's listening to this. So, from my experience, I think I'll start off at secondary school. At secondary school, I found secondary school kind of difficult, I'd say, especially when it comes to making friends. I was the type of guy that, okay, I'd say some people considered me as being weird, and I also considered them, I considered them as good people, but I felt like they didn't really truly understand who I was. I think that it was on one part, I wasn't very articulate. So when it comes to me, I wasn't able to be very concise with my speech. As you can clearly hear, I still have that, but it was a lot worse. Even though I'd say a lot of the times I was saying something that was correct, I wasn't able to say it to another person, whether it be a classmate, a friend, or a stranger. That's something I found really difficult. And I think when you're at that 13, 14 age, you're always thinking about yourself, and you're thinking, okay, if I can speak very well, why can't he? What's wrong with him? Okay, he looks perfectly able-bodied. Why isn't he able to articulate him? Why can't he speak properly? But yes, that's basically the setting for you to understand why I used to spend a lot of my breaks hopping, not essentially alone, not essentially by myself, but alone in the sense that I would go from a group of friends, a group of people, I'd say, have a 5-minute, 10-minute conversation with them, walk to the other side of the school or the other side of the playground and find someone else to talk to and try to connect with them. But I wasn't able to find that grounding in whether it be a similarity in interests or whether it be in basically I didn't find a true a set of true friends, right? Even though people say to me, okay, we were good friends, I didn't see
you
the
didn't
connection.
feel
I didn't feel it.
It was more like you knew these people, but it was like, oh, we're good friends type thing.
Or to others who I thought, wow, I thought we were really close, but they didn't see it. It wasn't reciprocated. Now, I would say, okay, if you were to ask me, did you have any friends during secondary? I can tell you, I did have friends.
Yeah.
But do I speak to them now? I would say no. Or I would say, I'd basically say no. That's my experience of loneliness.
And then what happened when like uni time hit and then COVID hit?
Yeah, COVID is, I think for a lot of people, as I said, I really enjoyed COVID. It was a time for me to be by myself. And really truly love myself, you know? Because before then I really had a negative experience on life. I was really depressed when I was younger. But that's a conversation that is for another day.
It's for another day.
But when it came to COVID, it was for me a break and truly become myself, become Mubarak. And I used it to go to the gym. I used it to watch K-dramas, learn new subjects, and gain a lot more experiences. Like it was the time where I started learning about finance and started to get a passion towards that. When I started learning about K-dramas and started getting into that.
So you basically just like learned more about yourself. You utilize this lonely time, learn more about yourself and learned what you're passionate about. One thing that me and Mubarak kind of discussed before before I pressed record was that, and I think it's not something that only me and you did. I feel like everybody did that. You know, when COVID time hit, we kind of tested our friends. We were like, let's see who reaches out first. Let's see if they even reach out to me. And what me and Mubarak sort of related to is that for me, I think only 2 people reached out.
For me, it was zero. It was nobody. Okay, but
yeah, and it's like it kind of just makes you sort of realize that, like, you.
It makes you realize how you were at school. You're forced into either not making friends, but being with other people.
In a group of people. Yeah.
You might not have the same interests, but you have to gel together because those are the people. For me, it was the people I was with for 7 years. I think it was a lot shorter for you.
Probably, a lot shorter for me. Yeah.
But when you move on to university, it's an opportunity. A lot of people do say university is the best part of their
best experience of your life.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Yeah, but like now I think about it, I've really enjoyed university. It has been the highlight of my life. Yeah. Especially the last 12 months since we came out of COVID in a sense and started coming truly back to uni, has been the greatest 12 months of my life. I've really loved everything. It's been all highs and no lows.
So it's like when my sort of lonely time hit, for me it was a bit different because it was like first year, second year of uni. I was that person who would be just out there. I'm kind of like an extrovert but also an introvert. It's like a 50-50 sort of thing. So it's like during the day I have no problem going up to like people and making friends or whatever. I would go up to so many people and as like, you know how you said it, 15 minutes you would talk to one group and then you would go to some other group. Like it was kind of like for me as well. and it was kind of like a lot of people knew me, and it was a really social person. But then just things happened, and I distanced myself from everyone. And like, I think it was December last year when for 1 month I really just distanced myself from every single person. And I remember I used to go to like 200 Degrees, the coffee shop, alone every single morning, and do like a little 30 minutes reflection time before going to my lectures and stuff. At the start, it was so awkward because I was so used to just going to these places with my friends or like my girls and whatever, and like just going alone and just sitting there and just having a cup of coffee alone, just talking to yourself. At first it was really awkward, but then like sooner I realized how much I love my own company, and I learned how to be by myself. And I think that had a really positive impact on first of all, that now loneliness wasn't a problem anymore for me, because I was like, well, I have my own company, that should be more than enough. Second of all, when making new friends, that was also like, okay, well, now I have control over who's gonna be my friend, who can affect me, who can reach out to me, because now I'm dependent on myself rather than dependent on other people. Does that make sense?
It's weird. Okay, I'm just so shocked. Like, I feel like Sun is like the female version of me. It's incredible. But wow. I'm just trying to think of a good question to ask. But I can't think of any. But wow.
But it's just about it's about, you know, when this loneliness time hits, whether you choose to be lonely or whether people just leave and then you're just lonely. It's about, you should, instead of just, you know, seeing it in a negative way, you could turn it into a positive and learn about yourself and enjoy your own company and depend on yourself rather than depending on the people. Because then when you do, because you are gonna end up making friends one day anyways, whether it's at work, your neighbors, I don't know, your uni, school, whatever it is.
Don't put a timeline on it.
Yeah, but then it's like you have control. It's not like when I came to England and I went to high school, it was like, you know, I was forcing myself to be someone I'm not, just to fit in certain groups. Because I was like, oh no, then I don't want to be the lonely girl who's just sitting in one corner, because like, you know, so I was like forcing myself to change. But like now, it's like, if I can't find my group, it's fine. I'm okay being by myself.
Now, wow. Just talking about high school and the situation of the girl being alone, I look back at it now and realize, whoa, that was the person who was. It takes a lot of courage to be alone with yourself.
It does take. It's not easy. It's not easy at all.
And you think, wow, if they were able to do that at that age, I just found that incredible. Now that I look back at it, before when I was younger, I thought, oh, you don't want to, like you just said, you don't want to be that person.
You don't want to be that person, because you know, me and you are discussing this, and we're like, oh yeah, because like, oh, Sana used to go on coffee shops alone, you know, and Mubarak was like alone trying to find himself, like, you know, during COVID time. But it's not easy. That moment is not easy, because you are gonna have moments where you're like, oh crap, I'm lonely, I don't have anyone. But like, sooner or later you will come out of that mindset and you will turn it into a positive if you want it to be a positive.
Exactly. It doesn't. For my instance, it took me years to figure it out. For Sana, it only took her 4 weeks. So yeah, first of all, I would say don't put a timeline on it. And the second thing I would say is, yeah, just enjoy being, not just enjoy being alone, but enjoy yourself and finding your passions.
Yeah. So you know how
it might take you a while to figure that out. For me, my passion was not just working in a coffee shop, but like, I enjoy coffee. I'll say it, the coffee shop that 200 Degrees, that
200 Degrees,
is where I used to work.
We're giving them free promotion, you know. We really are.
It's okay. I don't go there anymore. Okay,
I still go there. Like literally, I go there and they know me. And at this point, they're like, I think it was I can't remember the guy's name, but he
won't name names.
Yeah, but let's not name names. But he was like, I would be standing in the queue, and he would be like, Sana, usual order, and I would feel like a celebrity, like, yeah, the usual for me.
Wow. You know, nobody's there anymore?
No, there are still people.
Really?
Yeah. Because I go there every day, so I know.
Yeah, for me, everybody has changed.
It's just different people now. It's not the same people. Yeah, it's just different people now.
I would say I'm going to tell you, I haven't list of coffee shops in Birmingham you guys should check out. So many. I went to a new one yesterday and today as well. Yeah.
So guys, you know, when you find Mubarak's Instagram, just text him a lot of like questions like, oh, which coffee shop do we go to now?
When it comes to whether it be coffee or how finding yourself to a certain extent, or anything, I don't mind. I am someone who is willing to answer any of your questions, and however long it takes, just be there for you.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know who you are. No.
So, I want to know more about your like university experience. Like, you know how you said like, okay, so in COVID time you found out that you're like you love like K-dramas and stuff. Okay, now then what? Then you know when you came back to university after COVID, then how did you apply whatever you learned in your lonely time to the university life?
That's a brilliant question.
Thanks.
First of all, I would say that when it comes to my second year, at the beginning of my second year, I was voted as the secretary of the Korean Society, which I'm still proud of, and that is what a lot of people remember me by. I decided when it came to not the careers affair, the society fair.
Yeah.
When it came to the society fair, I decided, okay, I'm gonna reach out to as many people as possible and tell them about the society and tell them about what we do and what we offer. And I did that. I met a lot of people. I went outside my comfort zone to a certain extent. I would consider myself, okay, now I'm as you can see, I just say stuff. But I would consider myself as neither an introvert or an extrovert. Yeah. Like in between.
That's similar to me, right? Yeah.
But yeah, I decided to go to the extreme. Okay, because I love going to the extreme, whether it be the amount of things I do or whether it be my emotions or.
I get what. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, when it came to the fair, I was extremely extroverted, and I connected with and met so many people. I'd say at least 100, 150 people is the amount of people that I told about the careers fair in the space of 3 or 4 hours. I still remember being so mentally drained and so hot from just telling so many people about the society. But I mentioned this because a lot of the people who I have met from that fair, my friends especially, they said that you're totally different from when I first met you. It's so weird, you know. You were a different person, and I would say, as much as it's great in reaching out to people and making new friends through making new friends with strangers, I think that finding your passion and focusing on that is more important. I only say that because my first year and during the summer of lockdown, that is when I really found my true passions. And if I had focused on that in my second year, when I was given the opportunity to meet all these wonderful 150 people, then I would have been truer to myself that way than putting on a facade and becoming mubs. Okay, that's what a lot of people know me as. Okay, that was my ulterior that was my ulterior self. Now that I look back at it, yes, be true to yourself, and then your friends will come. The friends will come. Okay? Take your time.
So like, do you have like a group of friends now then?
Oh, I have a group of friends. I have a lot of friends, but like the people who I would call my best friends, because that isn't a term I really understood until I met these people. Yes, I have a group of 5 friends, there's 6
It's difficult to like explain, because for me it's like, because of this role now as well, there's so many people that I know, and it's like, yes, I say to them the term that I use all the time, besties. Like I'm like, yeah, we're besties, but
I was one of those, but now I can.
But now, because you aired me when I asked you what topic do you want to discuss on my podcast, and then you aired me for 12 hours, so you're not the bestie anymore.
But don't you think that was a good thing? Because
I
came back with
it's a really good, fair enough. But so yeah, it's difficult to be like, because we say to them like, oh yeah, you're my friend, but in our heads we're like, but you're not my friend. Like,
as I used, I would. Now that I spend
because I have people that I know.
Yeah.
But I have 3 friends. My friendship group is like 3 people.
I know. Let me just say, this is something that you will realize when you spend more time on your own. You'll think a lot more. And I realized there are, like an onion, there are layers, right? And that is how I treat my friendship groups in a sense. Okay, I have a core, and every outer layer is important to me. To, the onion of mobs. There's
onion of mobs.
Yeah, there's different layers, but it's important to understand. Okay, although there's different layers, you will have that core of friends, but that doesn't mean that every other person that you interact with, every other person that you meet, is not a friend. They are friends in a sense, but they're just further away from your core. And I'd say it doesn't. Yeah, I think that's important to understand. Okay, there's different layers. Make sure you understand. It will take you time to figure out, but make sure you understand where those people are. How far are they from that core?
But that's about creating boundaries as well. And I feel like, when you have that lonely time, that's when you really understand. That's when you can create those boundaries. Like, because if you are somebody who, that's why, loneliness is not always a negative thing. It could be a positive thing as well. Because when you're always in a group of people, it's like your boundaries kind of become a little more like blurry, and it feels like everybody just knows your business, and you need to take care of every single person in the group, and everything is your responsibility and whatnot. But then when you're alone, you're like, okay, for me it's like these 3 people, like they're like the closest friends that I have. They are the people who I need to check up on, like, we actually have responsibilities over each other. That's like the boundaries that we've created, the expectations that we have. But there's the outer layer, how there's the layers. There's the outer layer of people, like, maybe 10 people that are my friends. If I just disappear, it's not gonna be like, oh, why Sana's not talking to us anymore, something like that. And then there's the outer layer, all the people that I know because of this job and stuff like that. So I feel like loneliness can always turn into a positive. There's so much you have to learn about yourself, and if you're somebody who can take out this time and learn about yourself first, I feel like you can bring more to the table when you have, like, even whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship, because your skills, the things that you're good at, what you like, what you don't like, love yourself, more about yourself, then it's like, then you have a better understanding of what you can bring to the table when you're like making new friends. Does that make any sense? Totally. I feel like I just waffled.
You guys can't see me, but I'm smiling. I have a big smile on.
He does have a really big smile on
because wow, it's so relatable. The topic of boundaries. I used to be the person who would I'm gonna use the term baby. I used to cuddle people, and I used to ensure that they were healthy mentally. Yeah. Even though I wasn't. A lot of the time.
Same.
Because I think this is a topic you were speaking about, but you didn't really mention it. I used to be that person who, okay, you could go to whatever you need, whatever you need, any advice. Okay, I got it. Even though I hadn't I haven't experienced a lot of their emotions, I was the mature one, and people were able to come up to me one to one, explain how they feel. Yeah. And I used to be I used to give them I used to give him good advice.
I remember when I came up to you for it wasn't anything personal, but it was like because we were in the team project together, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm very overwhelmed. I don't know what to do, and I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember you giving me really good advice. But yeah, going back to what you said, it's like you become that if your boundaries are not clear, you become that person who everybody can just come up to and tell their problems, and then you have to solve them. Like people like me and you, like we're just there solving every other person's problem, while we don't have enough time to even process our own problems.
Yeah, exactly that.
You get what I mean?
Oh yes, Sana. See, okay, we're talking about a lot of things that I haven't spoken with Sana about, and each topic, whether it be boundaries, whether it be loneliness or our past, I just get to learn more, not only about Sana, but how similar we are.
Yeah, of course.
I keep using the same phrase, but yeah.
And I feel like it's not only just like me and you. I feel like people who are going to listen to this, because loneliness is such a common thing. Whether you're going to be lonely for 2 days, 2 months, 2 years, you are going to go through it. You're going to feel it. And I feel like a lot of people will be able to relate to it.
That's exactly what I was about to say. There will be a lot of you who can relate to a lot of what we've spoken about. I don't know about the time what we might speak about, but yeah, understand that there are others in either the same situation or more likely have been through what you've been through and have experienced what you're experiencing, and understand that you are not alone out there. Okay, understand that at Aston University we offer services that Sana, if you want, you can speak about.
Yeah, all of the services are going to be listed, but honestly, this conversation was just, it was like out of nowhere as well, because and by the way, if anybody wants to be on the podcast, please like message me, because Mubarak messaged me and he was like, oh, I want to be on the podcast, and it was just like, okay, what do you want to talk about? Obviously aired me for 12 hours, but then he was like, oh, loneliness, and I said, that's a really good topic. And even then I didn't realize how deep we would get into this. Just before even starting the podcast, we sort of had a little talk, and we realized how much we relate to it, and how much other people would relate to it as well. So yeah, one last thing that I always get everybody to do, Mubarak, is to give a piece of advice that you know you could give to the whole world or anybody who's listening.
I would say my advice would be, find your passion first. Find what you like, and then specifically when it relates to the friends, they will come. All right, so just find your passion, learn who you are, and then everything else will be sorted. And secondly, this is another one that I mentioned earlier with Sana. Understand that the emotions you're feeling right now, whether it be happiness or whether it be, more importantly, sadness, understand that's temporary, and you will, it's temporary, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, 100%. It's like the loneliness, whether you've already experienced it or if you will experience it, trust me, you can always, it doesn't always necessarily have to be a negative thing. You can always make it positive. And if you want to speak to me or Mubarak, you guys know the socials, they are gonna be in the description. But yeah, thank you so much, Mubarak, for reaching out to me and just being here and just sharing your story. And I'm sure a lot of people are gonna find you relatable.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation. When me and you were, when I asked you about joining the podcast, and till this moment, I've spent a lot of time thinking and processing who I am now and who I was in the past, and seeing the maturity on that. And yeah, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to experience that.
No worries. If anybody else wants to be in the podcast, I feel like sometimes, as you said, you had that time to sort of process and think even what you're gonna say. It's that moment of realization. I don't know how to pronounce this word, guys. Realization. Yeah, that thing.
That's the word. I might be wrong. My bad.
No, I think that is the word. Realization. You're like, it kind of just, everything kind of just falls into place, and you're like, oh, maybe I never really thought about this before, and I'm going to speak about it and just yeah. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you, Mubarak.